Hey HD 101 fans, I want you to know that we're crowdfunding a brand new, gorgeously printed hardcover book covering 101 weird, obscure, historically important, and just plain cool Japanese video games. It's going to be called Hardcore Gaming 101 Presents Japanese Video Game Obscurities, but we can only put it out with your pledge. So check out hardcoregaming101.net. The link should be pretty much close to the top of the page. Japanese Video Game Obscurities. If we get to do this, it's going to be our best looking book yet, and it's one of those books that it'll be about stuff you've probably never heard of. In fact, I can almost guarantee you won't have heard of almost all of it. So give a hoot, fund our book, $15 for the PDF, $20 plus shipping for the hardcover. Do it! Hello and welcome to episode 78 of Hardcore Gaming 101.net's top 47,858 games of all time podcast, where we objectively, definitively, and scientifically rank games you nominate. My name is Xerxes, and tis, I'm a gallant podcaster. You'll get burned if you touch me. My panelists today are...
I'm Carl.
I'm Kelsey.
And I'm Cody.
And welcome back, Kelsey and Cody. For those of you who haven't heard episode 77 yet, what's wrong with you? But we'll get you up to speed. Where might our listeners know you guys from?
So I've got my own YouTube channel, which is just my name, just Kelsey Lewin. I'm also occasionally on the Metal Jesus Rocks YouTube channel, you might know me from. And then Cody and I do a great podcast together called the Game Blitz Podcast.
I'm Cody. You might know me from owning Pink Gorilla here with Kelsey, and you'll see me there almost every day of the week.
And
in Seattle, yes.
Yeah, Pink Gorilla is a game store that's in Seattle, right?
Yes. I forgot that the name does not make it obvious.
Yeah. Is it technically, is it Pink Gorilla Games?
Technically Pink Gorilla.
Just Pink Gorilla.
It helps, yeah.
If you're in the greater Seattle area, that's a place to go get your games. And what kind of stuff do you guys have at Pink Gorilla? What makes it special? What makes it stand out?
Our import selection.
Yeah.
Our import selection would be what makes us weird, special. Special rather than weird. We carry a lot of Japanese import games, as well as plushies, trinkets, gachapons, that sort of thing. So if you like import games, or you are interested in possibly liking them in the future, I can help you out.
I got to tell you, it's a lot cheaper than flying to Japan. It really is. Yeah, great. Well, thanks for coming back for another episode. We really appreciate it. And everybody should definitely check out our guest stuff and our guest store and all that. It's worth your while. That is, I don't have any store anywhere near me that's that cool, and I live close to Digital Press. Ooh, burn! No, I'm just kidding. I regret that already. On this podcast, we have 3 rules. We love you, Digital Press. I'm sorry. On this podcast, we have 3 rules. Rule number 1: all rankings are final, official, and scientifically accurate. Rule number 2: you can nominate one game at a time via 5-star review on iTunes or Stitcher. Rule number 3: you can nominate games that have already been nominated, but please don't nominate games we've already ranked. See the master list for yourself. Check it out. bit.ly/47kgames. bit.ly/47kgames. First game we're talking about for this episode is LSD Dream Simulator, which was nominated by @SB057, developed by Asmic Ace Entertainment, published by Asmic Ace Entertainment. For the PlayStation, earliest release date is July 16th, 1998 in Japan. I don't know how to explain the game LSD without taking LSD. No, I mean, I don't. It is more game-like than you would think.
Well, let's just break out the technically the full name of the game, or what a lot of people might know it as, maybe, because it is called LSD Dream Emulator. So,
not simulator. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. My bad.
I
guess like Dream Simulator doesn't sound that great. You could just go to sleep and have one of those. Right?
I got like a cool piece of information about the fact that even though it's called LSD, it's actually short for in L the S Dream. That's apparently in the manual. So it's like Mad Libs. You just put whatever L and S word you want in there, and that's the name of the game, because it's that kind of game. It's very odd.
Yeah, and the other thing is that the dream diary that this whole game is based off of was called Lovely Sweet Dream, which also includes, the LSD acronym. So there's a lot of links to this LSD name, I guess. I
believe that that was actually penned by a lady on the development team, I think, was the Dream Diary.
Yeah. One of she was the producer of this game, but yeah, she was just, as far as I can tell, just some designer that worked at the company. Was it Asmic Entertainment that made this one? However you pronounce that. And yeah, it's, so I hesitate to call this thing a game. It's, to me, it's very interesting and unique and cool. They call it like an exploration game. You just wander around and the landscape sort of changes around you as you touch things, and it's obviously very surreal, as its name would suggest. Weird things happen, but to me that feels almost like something that belongs in like an art exhibit, like a modern art museum or something, rather than being, because there's no score, there's no objective. You simply walk around, stuff happens, eventually you like wake up and the counter goes forward one day and you do it all over again, and there's no, as far as I can tell, there's nothing else to it.
Well, there's no interact buttons or any sort of gameplay elements like that. You don't get to do anything effectively to affect the world. There's no puzzles, as far as I recall. And the kind of interesting thing about this one, obviously people are very tempted when they talk about the modern term walking simulators, which is a terrible name, and we'll change it for something else eventually. But this is kind of very much a primordial version of that, where it doesn't really have a goal other than, if you want to get technical, the game kind of, there's when you finish a dream, it throws like not like a guide, but like a summary of your dream. Like, this dream was sexy and scary, or whatever the categories, because there's 4 categories a dream can fall into. And there's a big grid about how of these things it was, and you can try and fill that in if you want. But attempting to do that would be insane, because the game does not reveal its inner workings to you in the slightest.
This is just such an odd... I don't know. I'm actually very curious to talk to the person who nominated this one. Because when people nominate to this show, do they mean that they think it's a good game, or are they just asking to
Sometimes
talk about
they
one?
want to punish us for something, and so they'll nominate certain games. Like,
Superman's on the list.
We don't usually know.
Okay.
I mean, like, I know some of the people that nominate things or know what they like. I don't know the person who nominated this one, so I can't guess their motivations. Usually it is because they want us to talk about it or be baffled by it. This one is I'm going to have to call it a game because it came out on the PlayStation and it's kind of clearly packaged and sold as a game, which is true of the kind of one of the lead creatives of this game's, Osamu Sato, who made a bunch of very off-kilter Japanese adventure games that are incredibly interesting to play. You've got like East in Mind. It's a sequel, which I can't remember the name of, but it's similar. Garage, I think. It's just a really strange creative that makes odd experiences. And this one is very experimental. I think there's over 600 different audio tracks in this game to set the mood for the various areas based on what tile set is loaded or what texture set, because there's like 4 texture sets that load in each environment depending on, nobody knows. It just kind of does its own thing. And the way you progress through this game is you just bump into objects. Either you get bored of a dream and just walk into a wall, or you find an interesting object, which is probably the only gameplay element, I guess, in there. There are some more, specific things like weird faces and dancing people. There are some other objects.
The pseudo antagonist of the game, right? The what's that guy?
Yeah, that like the hat wearing like coat guy, I think it is.
Yeah,
and he's really creepy. I think you can even occasionally he'll actually freeze you in place and then go up to you, and then you'll get warped. I think out of the dream, or it just goes like a nightmare sort of thing. And it occasionally dumps you in CG, where it's like a long shot footage of just like a Ferris wheel or something like that. It's been a little while since I played this one, but it's a very distinctive experience. You don't really forget what it is. But it is very tough to describe.
It's really it's a very disorienting game. And if the idea of the game was to just be really absurd and disorient you and make you feel, confused and like you are trapped in a dream or something like that, then it does that part very well. But to me, that feels a lot more like modern art exhibit than it does video game.
It's weird to say that the closest you can get to playing this game, like I wouldn't say this game was influenced by it, but it seems tonally very similar, would be like the fan game Bubsy 3D visits like the James Turrell retrospective at the whatever San Diego Museum of something or other. You guys played that one?
No.
I mean, of course I did.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, we're Bubsy fanatics, but
yeah, we are. We're just unhealthily.
Okay. I don't want to spoil it for people, but you should definitely check that out, our listeners, if you haven't, because it is. But that is a very focused nightmare, whereas this
game is
focused.
You're never really sure, and I think that's kind of the appeal of this experience or game is because it is a very solitary sort of experience, in that I don't think you should read about it if you haven't seen much about this game. I really think that maybe you should just get your hands on the game. You don't need to speak Japanese because there's not a lick of language in it. But wasn't released anywhere else, even though it could have been localized by doing absolutely nothing. But I guess they thought it was too weird, which is fair. It is pretty weird. You just wander around and you're just like trying it. For me, when I play this game, I'm like, what's going to happen next? But also I'm trying to like solve a puzzle in a very abstract way. Like, is any of this connected? Can I actually figure out the pattern that this game takes place? I think it also ends after a year, I believe. I think you get 365 dreams, and then you have to start the game again, I believe.
Although
I don't think it goes on
like you could start the game again every time you play, for all it cares. I mean, it doesn't really matter.
Well, I think that the game does potentially again, because no one's cracked it open and
I believe it has an ending of sorts. Like, you can finish it. I think there's like a final, and it's just about getting like the little video cutscenes.
Yeah, and I think that the dreams do kind of respond to the path that you're taking through the game. Because when I played this game, and it's a few years ago now, but when I played it, my dreams that I was experiencing got increasingly more violent. Because there's 4 categories of dream, and the dreams I was playing in the game got increasingly more violent, and I went to the areas that are more likely to generate the violent tile set or texture set. I keep saying tile set when it's a texture set.
Describe what that's like. What was that progression like? Because that's probably the best way to understand. This is a game where it's wacky, but it's not wacky in a fun way. It's wacky in like, I'm calling it wacky so I don't have to think about what's really being implied here, kind of way.
Deeply unsettling way.
Yeah. There's nothing in it that's like gruesome exactly, but that's exactly right. It's unsettling. It's disturbing without being like.
Well, I mean, where you're going, and I think it's kind of like if you've seen Japanese horror movies, often they do have that where it's just the atmosphere and stuff that starts to happen. Often they'll have like a climatic set piece where something actually happens. You're like, oh no, it's scary. But they often have this undercurrent of very unsettling nature to them. And this game captures that absolutely.
Describe what that's like as you play through the game and it gets more violent. Explain like how the progression of that, because I think people maybe
that's a real tough one. But so basically the game has, I don't know how many environments, but it has quite a few. And it has when you enter an area, it can be a sort of, I think there's like a normal sort of realistic texture, there's an upbeat texture, there's a sexy texture, which is it's probably not what you think, but and there's like this violent texture, which I think is often like angry text, like this, like just angry letters scrawled all over the environment, and lots of harsh, dark palettes and things. And what I was getting was, when I started playing, it was when you entered an area, it would load the normal texture, and as I made my progression, so I would go through the dreams, and I would bounce to different ones, and I go through the house and the roller coaster and the sort of oversized playroom sort of thing with the train and the dancing people and stuff. But then I would slowly get more of the, it's kind of like an overpass, which is considered one of the more dangerous environments in the game, because it's where the coat man shows up more often. And I was getting this angry tile set more frequently. And so when every dream that I entered, it would try to put me back on this highway. It would put me back in the dangerous areas. And so every dream would end with a flash of red, and I would constantly just get ripped out of the dream the further I played. And I don't know if it does it deliberately, but I kind of think it has that capacity to make you think, and maybe it is doing it deliberately.
Yeah.
That something is happening. You think in your head, like, we look for patterns as people, and this game does a great job of making you think: is this connected? Is something happening here? Am I getting told a story? Because you don't know.
So yeah, I'm curious if you're through your experiences, because I played it and it seems like you like it a lot more than I do. Did you get like a satisfying conclusion at all?
No, I think I stopped playing. I think I got what I wanted out of the game, and I was like, okay.
I was like, I don't know.
So what was that one game you were comparing to earlier when we were chatting about this, Cody?
Yeah. So like LSD has this like weird word of mouth thing. Like everyone kind of describes it to each other and picks up on stuff without actually playing it because it's kind of hard to play. If you want the experience that you think LSD is going to be in a fun way, you should play Jazz Punk, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have played that.
Right. Jazz Punk is the, it's a weird sort of, it has, it's like surrealistic comedy. Jazz Punk, which it's a really cool game, and it's a guided experience.
I would say it is a Dadaist.
Yes.
If you don't immediately want to stab me to death for saying that.
Well, the only people that want to stab you to death is maybe the Dadaists, because they get angry when you call anything, because that's apparently part of being Dadaist. Hold on a moment.
Someone's got a pizza.
I'm gonna go get it. You guys can,
What if it's the man? What if it's the man in the coat?
So that to me seems like the better way to do a game like this is the way Jazz Punk does it, from what I understand. I mean, LSD is very interesting, and for the limitations of the late 90s and all of that, I mean, I think it does a very good job at being absurd and make you think and make and be unsettling and weird. But if you want it to have more substance than just purely, this is really weird and unsettling.
It's just random.
Then,
if I had like a conclusion of sorts.
Right, or anything. But I mean,
I guess I'm going in with the wrong mind.
It's been out for so long now that if there was a point, we would have found it. Somebody would have found the point.
People kind of like data mine like everything there is to see in there and pointed out the interesting stuff. So like, look at a YouTube video. Do not waste your time trying to do that yourself.
Well, I mean, there is something you can get out of the game by, you got to be in the mindset, like, I have no expectation of like gleaning anything useful or fun from something, but if you just want to check out something and see whether it has any effect on you at all, I mean, you kind of do sort of have to play it. And look, nobody's going out and buying this game, but if you do, Pink Gorilla. If
you want to pay, what is this thing going for now? Like $300 or something
is that
like that?
Yeah, it's weird.
It's weird.
Well, the game had a very limited release, and because it's now a sort of very popular cult game, everyone outside of Japan exploded the aftermarket price. Holy hell.
What's weird about it, for being a game that didn't, it didn't have a huge launch and they didn't anticipate for it to have a huge launch. They ran TV commercials for this game, which is maybe the weirdest, most absurd about this whole LSD thing, is that they ran TV ads. And maybe drug culture is so small in Japan that people just didn't even, your average TV viewer didn't make the connection. I honestly don't know. But
I can't tell you if that LSD is the name of LSD in Japan. I couldn't tell you. Xerxes, do you have any idea?
I thought it was.
Yeah.
Okay. So they just don't care.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think here in America you could call a game LSD, and at the very least you could not advertise it on TV, even in the 90s.
Am I misremembering something, or do you sometimes like see like little skits play out in the different environments? Like, do you see like little weird blocky people doing stuff?
Yeah, there's stuff that happens. And there is like, there's like elephants that just sort of wander around the environment, and you do occasionally see things. Like, it's not good luck finding a reason for it.
I might be confusing this with one of my regular, like, legit nightmares, but do you like ever like turn a corner and see like somebody getting like beaten up or something like that, or like kicked around, or?
I don't remember that one.
I don't remember that either.
Yeah.
Okay, so that may just be my own personal horror, but you do see weird stuff happening, and it's not entirely like it's inscrutable in a way. And what's interesting to me about this game is how much of the effect would be lost if it were higher res and higher tech in a newer gen presentation. You could.
Right, it does take great advantage of that kind of inference. Are you gonna jump on my back about?
No, you're correct. You're using it correctly.
I'm using it correctly this time? Okay, yeah. This is, you're looking at it and you're like, all right, I guess this is that. The low fidelity definitely makes your brain fill in the blanks. And I will sort of comment back on this sort of idea that because it is a dream emulator, kind of, that sort of etherealness where it's like, you don't ever really remember with crystal clarity most of the elements of a dream. It's very, it isn't lucid. You're just kind of picking little symbols and little tiny bits of information, and you wake up, after a dream, you're just like, what happened there? I know something happened, but I can't remember what. And I think that as it is a dream emulator, the lack of an ending, I mean, like, no ending for this game would be, I think, satisfactory. It would be impossible to end this game with anything like, I guess, like what? Like you have a weird CG person wake up in like CG graphics and be like, that was weird. The
scariest thing I've ever heard of a game doing is, I think, one of the Super Nintendo Shin Megami Tensei games, right? Where there's like a 1 in something, like a really low percentage chance that when you start up the game, it's going to give you like a screen full of kanji. It's just like turn it off or something like that. Like,
yeah, it just prints like red text like endlessly, and it's just like, yeah, turn it off, turn it off, turn it off, turn it off, turn it off.
That's amazing.
And
I just learned something similar. I just learned about this game I used to play all the time called Black and White on the PC.
Oh yeah.
Apparently programmed in there. And this was something I was convinced. I never even said this out loud because I was so sure that this was just something my mind had made up being a kid. I guess they programmed in some like common names into there, and they just said stuff like, Michael, turn off the computer. And so there's like a whisper calling you by name. And just hope you, and it's
that game did have some very Peter Molyneux-isms, basically.
Yeah. So, anyways, one of the developers recently, like a month ago or so, on Twitter, confirmed that is actually in the game, and so many people were like, "Oh my god, I thought I made that up. What?" So, I love stuff like that. I think that's, creeping out kids is the hallmark of video games, right?
And I do think that that's kind of where LSD as a game is going. It's not real. It isn't, really a game in a lot of ways, but it is just trying to just evoke sensations with you. And you do kind of have to, a bit like a horror movie, you do have to sort of step in and say, I am going to experience this. And if you're trying to buffer yourself against that, then yeah, it's probably, it's not going to be enjoyable, I don't think, because it's not kind of presenting itself like that. It's like an artist comes up and is like, look, you have to be willing to engage with the art. And if you can't do that or are unwilling to, then I know like a lot of people aren't going to like this game.
Well, let me put it this way. If the original PlayStation Kingsfield games were not alienating enough, there is this option.
This is a real weird one. I do like it a lot, but yeah.
Let's rank it, and it's odd because we're kind of in a similar position that we had with Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3, where it's kind of like it is sort of a genre unto itself.
I mean, I wouldn't try and put this at number 3. That's not it's not rational.
I'm going to start by putting that at number 4. No.
You sack of crap.
I want to hear what our guests where our guests would put it.
Jeez. Really?
You can't.
Oh, wow. I think the big problem for this game was because of that like word of mouth, it like gets hyped up and then you play it and it's just like so disappointing.
That's fair.
Like, wow, this was what people were hype about. Okay.
This is definitely, as I said, this is kind of like the opposite of a community experience game. This really feels like a game that you should have gotten, if you went and got like a bunch of pirated CDs from like some back alley marketplace, and they're like, here's a bunch of discs, and one of them is this game, and you have no idea what it is, and you put it on, and you're just like, what the heck?
That would be a better way to release this game as like an unintended.
Oh, in Hollywood?
Well,
they probably would have sold more copies.
Maybe like on a demo CD or something where you were not expecting anything. Because when you go into this knowing what it is, I feel like it's almost impossible to really be as weirded out by it as if you just thought this was a normal game. Then it would absolutely achieve whatever it's trying to achieve. I mean, it would totally disorient you. It would be super weird. But aside from just Japanese kids who bought it in the 90s, like who really has gone into this game not knowing anything about it?
Yeah, it's a big shame that the less prepared you are for it, and I guess we have to apologize because we just talked about it a bunch, but it's better the less you are prepared, because I think that's how it goes with this kind of game.
I look at it as like it's like it's like a Ouija board, right? A Ouija board, if you go out in like the sunshine and you're an adult And like you go sit down, it's like, I've got a Ouija board. There's nothing creepy about it, but if you got like candles lit and you got like some friends over for a slumber party, and then it has an effect on you because you're engaging with it on its own stupid terms, right? And that's kind of what I like what you said, Cal. Like I think that is sort of the point of the game, is just to be weird and unsettling and to take you by surprise. And we've ruined it for our listeners forever, which is fine.
They had their chance, though. I mean, they knew what was coming. I know for sure that Otsumu Sato would have been 100% serious with this game. It's not supposed to be goofy.
Well, there's nothing goofy about it, I don't think.
No.
I think it is deadpan, which is part of...
I think the sincerity for this game is a very strong point for it. There's nothing in here. The whole thing, there's no fourth wall breaks. It's just like, it's full serious.
Yeah, so you can usually, with these kind of games, go full serious in comedy, but if you go serious, there has to be some semblance of payoff, and I feel like there's zero. I feel like stuff just happens and it's over. Like,
I definitely believe that. Yeah, the payoff in this game is kind of, I guess, what you make of it, which is not really. I know that's not fair because like every game is just like the payoff is whatever you get out of it. Cody, this game doesn't have anything.
Oh yeah. Cody, when I die, can you deliver the eulogy? Because I think what you just said there is perfect. Like that will get there won't be a dry eye in the house. Life is essentially a meaningless ordeal that goes on for a finite period of time. Then it's over and it means nothing, and you learn nothing, and it means
it is accurate. So
yeah,
yeah. No, this one, yeah, I like because we do actually have. We're not doing it this at the moment, but it is in the distant future. Is another Japanese game which is inspired by this one. It was called Yume Nikki, and I think that one is kind of this game, but with purpose. So I think that there is kind of like, if you want a comparison point for that kind of game.
Oh, I was
thank
to
you.
look it up.
Thank you.
I will not now.
I'll recommend, like Jazzpunk Lite. Essentially, would be a browser game called Room of a Thousand Snakes by Ben Esposito. It delivers on its promise. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, we do have to, I guess, try and.
I don't mean to be too much of a hater, but I would seriously rank it at 226 because that's just below Yoshi, and I would rather play Yoshi than that any day of the week. And any of these other games, I'm kind of indifferent.
I gotta say, it at least goes around. Like, you guys probably haven't played Caverns of Kafka, and your lives are richer for it. But that is a game that is about as disorienting and weird as LSD, but it's completely accidental. That's a game where you can get your head trapped in the ceiling on a regular basis.
Oh, nice. I can appreciate
it's a game.
And it screeches at you constantly. Just constant screeching.
It is. That is the real nightmare. I gotta say, like, I feel like if you don't like the end product, that's fine. I don't think the people who made the game would feel like, oh, we failed. I think that they would be like, yes, that's. I don't like, it's like if you like, you'll never forget it.
They definitely, like, well, you had a strong reaction for it, and that's all we care about.
Game, which is not that video games can't be art, but I'm just saying this is like basically not a game. But
no, you're right. It's all garbage. I'm kidding. Yeah, it belongs in MoMA. It doesn't belong at like the local video game store. It doesn't belong in GameStop, right?
I mean, if you try and compare it directly to a lot of games, it's going to be like, well, it doesn't have any game systems, basically.
Which is why I want to put it right between NFL Blitz and Ninja Gaiden, two of the gamiest games ever.
Well, before you condemn this to the bottom of the list, I will say that I would put it above Sonic Adventure. That's, yeah. Forget you, pal. That's where I would put it.
Pretty close to that between NFL Blitz and Ninja Gaiden. I can't, in good conscience, put this game above like Zombies Ate My Neighbors.
What?
So, what do you mean?
Are you saying that's a bad game?
No, I'm saying the opposite. I'm saying I can't put LSD above Zombies Ate My Neighbors.
Sorry.
So, yeah, I'd probably put it at like one. Oh, I think that's supposed to be 156, where Spirits of Xanadu is, but it says 1.
Oh,
but
yeah,
I would
big
definitely
screw
put
up
Donkey
there.
Kong Country 3 and Zombies Ate My Neighbors above it. Kind of indifferent to if it goes below that, though.
Okay. I can live with that. I'll second that, just because I can't think of a reason to agree or disagree with it. That is the power of this game. Like, it just defies explanation or description or even like any kind of deep thought at all.
This is a game that belongs on like a separate list, and that would be totally appropriate for this game.
Unfortunately, the separate list is just the game Crazy Bus, and it's not a very good list.
Yeah, this belongs it's a game. Like it's more gamey than say like the WannaCry virus, but it's less gamey than most games. I don't know.
I will say, if that list was games that you should play, I would definitely put it really high because it is. You either love it or hate it, probably, which is, I think, a hallmark of an interesting product. But no, I mean, I just put it high because I really think it's a cool thing. But you guys put it wherever you want.
Can we put it wherever you want? Right below Kingsfield 3, because I feel like that is its spiritual neighbor. Kingsfield 3 is a heartbreakingly weird game. It is so crazy, depressing. It's the most. This does feel like a Kingsfield game. I don't know how to explain that.
But I thought we were keeping it below Zombie 8 My Neighbors. I thought that was
oh wait,
that's the sticking point there.
I'm losing track of where we. Well, that would put it above. Yeah. Okay. That would put it above Sonic the Hedgehog.
Sega Sonic the Hedgehog. Why did you make that mistake? That's the arcade game.
I didn't do that. Oh, Sega Sonic the Hedgehog.
I did that. I put it there.
I wasn't on that episode.
I know. That's why I put it there as opposed to lower. I got away with it.
I should never skip these things. All right, look, we just got to end this, and it doesn't really matter where LSD goes. It's just it kind of
just make sure it's above Shadow Man, because there is no way this game is the poorer dream game over Shadow Man.
What I was saying, it belongs just floating on the side of the
over
list.
Here, yeah, like
Crazy Bus does exist on the side of the list. That's true. It's not a game.
It defies ranking.
And write it upside down in rainbow letters.
Perfect.
I have nothing against removing it from the list. And
it cheapens Crazy Bus's stupidity.
It does cheapen it. So put it wherever you want, because LSD doesn't care where you put it. Really,
that's true. It's already succeeded. It's accomplished what it set out to do. So it goes between NFL Blitz and Biden, because I said so.
I'll agree with that.
When you're playing all the best games of all time, play them in that order.
Yes.
Take a break in between NFL Blitz and Ninja Gaiden to play LSD. That's perfect.
I gotta tell you, playing LSD doesn't make me want to kill myself. Playing Ninja Gaiden in this day and age does.
That's fair.
There's a point where I'm just like, I wish this nightmare would end. Yet it doesn't.
And in LSD, it can.
Starts over. That's right. So that's where it goes, kids. Play LSD. Don't take LSD.
But maybe do. Just don't take it very often.
But yeah, one of the two. Just don't do both at the same time, because there could be serious consequences and repercussions.
Cancel each other out.
Game just ceases to work. Yeah. You see nothing. That's
cancel each other out. What is the dead center of those two things? I don't know.
Normal life. You just take some LSD, play LSD, and then head into work, and you'll be fine. Put LSD switch or something.
Operate heavy machinery. That's what you do.
Absolutely, yeah.
Hey listeners, this is Mike, the real-life alter ego of Satenga, and the self-admitted weakest link of TG47K's regulars. But if you don't think I'm totally dragging down the quality of the podcast, then hear me out. I've been writing for Hardcore Gaming 101 since I was in high school, and I'm proud to see the site flourish. But it could always use more help for the benefit of its creator, Kurt, especially since he's paying us for these episodes now. If you want to give more incentive for Xerxes, Cal, Bobinator, our editor Jeff, and myself, along with our other friends and guests to put on the best damn show we can, make a pledge at www.patreon.com/HG101. If John Madden gets paid to say obvious things about sports, shouldn't we get rewarded for babbling about video games? If you agree, that's www.patreon.com/HG101. Thank you, and peace forever!
The next game we're talking about for this episode is Crusader of Centy, which was nominated by @OVFaceNugs.
You're never going to get through that name.
I don't understand what's funny about it. That's why I laugh. I just don't get it. But it makes me, the name is funny. OVFaceNugs. I don't even, what could OV stand for?
I don't know. Maybe it's a really weird emote face that I can't discern. like a cyclops with its mouth open.
Like a cyclops eating an invisible hot dog. Face nugs.
Eating some
It was eating some face nugs. There you go. It's made from faces, you know.
Well, I mean, if it's Cyclops eating it, we're talking about...
Yeah, he eats faces, right? That's canon to the Cyclops.
Right, so he just made them into nuggets.
I gotta say, it's kind of wasteful of the Cyclops to just eat the face and then throw the rest of the human being away. Like, seriously. It was developed by Crusader of Centy. It's developed by Nextech, published by Sega in Japan, and Atlas in the United States.
And I believe, because I'm going to have to jump in here, I think it was published by Sega in Europe, because there was a completely separate translation called Soleil, I think is how you pronounce it, in Europe.
French for sun. And I don't speak French, I just know that one piece.
So, Cirque du Soleil was first released in... Thank you, I'm sorry. Platform for the Sega Genesis. Okay, earliest release date and territory, June 16th, 1994. Cirque du Soleil does need its own video game, and it would be a lot like LSD. But yeah, please explain. Somebody explain what Crusader of Centy is, what it's like, and why you should or shouldn't play it.
It's a Zelda, but the items are animals.
Yeah, so everyone calls it a Zelda clone, which is like kind of unfair to the game, just because it's a good game without being a Zelda clone. I don't know. I feel bad whenever games are just relegated to, oh, it's a clone of this other good game. Like, it sounds like praise, but to me it's saying that this game isn't original. And I think this game is actually pretty original.
I would say it would be sort of like calling like Earthbound like a Final Fantasy clone or something. It'd be like, I guess, like technically.
Yeah,
that's all. Yeah.
The same genre, correct? It's it's the Dark Souls of everything, right? Everything's the Dark Souls of their own respective realm. So
Crusader of Centy, Dark Souls of Zelda.
Yeah, Crusaders of Centy is Dark Souls with animal friends. I mean, that's exactly what it is.
Right. Dark Souls with animal friends.
Well, okay, so this game is pretty... I think it's pretty cool. So the premise is, it's an adventure game that you wander around, you like leave your home and eventually gain the ability to talk to animals who help you out in various ways. Like there's a penguin who can turn things into ice or, add an ice attack to your sword, basically. There's a cheetah that makes you run faster. There's like...
I really want you to use the animal names because in the Crusaders of Centy translation, they're really great.
Yeah, they're different among all of the translations, and I wish I had my list pulled up here, because some of them are as mundane as, like, the Spanish version just calls the cat Kitty, and the US version it'll be like Francis or something. I'm making that up, but it seems like the US version actually give them like true names for everything instead of just calling it what it is.
Oh yeah, here's an example. Chili in the US for the penguin and pen guy in the UK.
It's a penguin who's a guy.
I get it.
But
it's really cool because the two translations essentially come out as almost exactly an argument between localization and literal translation. And so that's a really cool separation.
Pen Guy sounds like the world's worst Pokemon.
Pen Guy absolutely sounds like it could be a Pokemon.
Pen Guy, I choose you.
Yeah.
There's a character in this game who is a Pokemon, and that is Inferno, or I don't know what he's called, like Lion or Lion in the other versions, he is a lion who is on fire, and he is the coolest character around.
Yeah, I never really understood that one. They're like, well, we need something fire. Well, there's not actually any fire animals. That's not a thing. So we're just going to light an animal on fire and pretend this is normal? Like, I don't...
I love that when you first meet him, he's just, like, locked in an ice prison, and it's just like, you're on fire, mate. Walk out.
Yeah. And you proceed to use him for the rest of the game to melt ice. You can talk to them, because otherwise he would have no clue what to do with his life.
It sounds like he just didn't want to live anymore, and you kind of are like wrongfully prolonging that. Like, it's like
I think what happened, because his character, I like him because when you talk to him, he went to this like ice like castle to go like fight a bunch of guys. I think he's just like, you know what, I'm totally in over my head here, so I'm just gonna stay in this a cell they've locked me in because I can't fight all these guys. But yeah, so this game, the interest is really cool, and why I made the Earthbound sort of mention is it does a really odd thing with the sort of plot of Zelda and the plot of adventure games, because It starts off at what I think is your birthday party, and your character has no specific name. I tried to enter blank, and then it accepted blank as a name, so there's no default name in this one.
Oops.
So I called my character Dickhead, which is what I do in any game that will let me.
Oh, I was just saying they targeted this game towards kids, and you named yourself Dickhead, so...
Yeah, and so every time I get a thing, it says, Dickhead, gain some life, and the animals cuss you out all the time. It's good fun. It's always amusing, especially when you forget that you've called your character something dirty, and then it's like, what? Oh, yeah, of course, I called myself something. But yeah, so you go to the king because you're 14, and when you're 14, they train you for an indeterminate, like, quest or war or something. It's really not clear what you're supposed to do other than train and get a sword. And I thought that was kind of cool that the game just, instead of saying, oh, there's a villain that you have to go fight, it just like assumes that because this is an adventure game of that type, obviously you're going to get a sword and go train and go fight something. But it never really tells you what to do, and then very quickly goes off the rails and has you become unable to speak the language and have to converse with animals in a bid to recover your ability to speak, which is a very odd direction for a game to go in.
I was also really hoping, so I don't want to spoil too much, but one of the like first things you do in the game is you fight a wolf who's wearing a red cloak, and there's an old lady who's hiding. And I was like, my mind was like, oh, Little Red Riding Hood, is this whole game going to have like fairy tale bosses? But unless I'm missing something, that was like the only one that was like that. And I was really excited for the premise of a game where like all the bosses are loosely based on a fairy tale, but that was not the case at all, unless there's a bunch of like obscure ones I just don't know.
No, like it goes it's very mixed in terms of its inspiration, because you eventually, because like, I mean, this is just a location you go to, but you eventually climb what they actually refer to as the Tower of Babel. Like that's part of what you do in this game, and it's very, it definitely is kind of Euro fantasy in that regard. Like it's pulling things from, biblical references and medieval like fantasy sort of things. I don't think there's a lot of Japanese fantasy elements in it, but it's a very hodgepodge sort of thing, because you go through a volcano for some reason, and then you fight a Leviathan like dragon thing underwater. It's very... what I loved about this game was I think that you have almost no idea what is coming next in this game. You just go to like weird places and stuff happens, and it's kind of a wild ride, I found, with lots of imaginative bosses and pretty good like puzzles and exploration in it. Yeah,
and to me it seems a lot easier than Link to the Past as well, which, like we said, is what it gets compared to so often, which is not... I don't even think that is like anything bad against it. It just simply is easier.
Guess the way I'd put this one, because of the way the character animates in this kind of overly high resolution style, it kind of feels a little bit Amiga-ish in that regard, except it's easier than your average Amiga game. I found the only real issue I had is there an easy way to recover health? Because I couldn't find it, and you seem to really struggle to keep your health up, other than to buy the cat friend who will regenerate your health to full when you lose it all.
Yeah, just finding the apples, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, there's not really... I don't think I could tell you any better. Yeah, this is a cool game, for sure. I love games that give you puzzle solving by way of, like, you just have a bunch of different tools at your disposal. It helps that these tools are cute animals with cute names that talk to you. But I like that. I mean, as opposed to just an arrow or a bomb or something like that, being like, well, maybe I could freeze something, or maybe I could, jump really fast or jump further than normal by using this animal. I don't know. To me, that's more fun puzzle solving than simply, where do you use your bomb? Where do you...
Well, I think part of the thing that makes it different to the Link Zelda franchise, you don't get permanent power-ups in this one. Not really. There's a couple of like things that you can get more health and stuff. But the animal friends actually follow you on screen, and you have to choose which ones to equip, and you can equip 2 at once. So you get one animal that lets you throw your sword much further, and if you want to throw your sword much further and you want it to be on fire, then you have to equip those 2 animals. But that means that you can't equip the run faster animal. And so you have this kind of interesting sort of balance to the game where, unlike the Zelda games where, or the Metroid titles where you kind of just get stronger and stronger and you become like a super warrior, in this one, you're always just still kind of at a lower level and you're just kind of juggling your animals around to really match the situation that you're in, which is it's kind of cool. And I do like that it's an alternate take on that kind of gameplay.
Yeah, that's super cool. Irritating thing about it, you do need to open your menu to do that. It would be cool. I mean, like, I don't know what you can do with the 3-button Genesis controller, but if it had, like, shoulders, you could just switch them out somehow quick. That would be awesome.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that, although this one was 94, they didn't put in the 6-button controller support, because that was available at this point, and some games used it, some games didn't, and this is one of them that's just like, nah, we're not going to put an alternate 6-button control scheme. You do have to.
Shaq Fu used it, right?
I know, it used it to great effect.
Yeah, that would have been.
Yeah, oh god, that would hurt so much. I really do like this cute animal game. It's wonderful. I also found it interesting. Your main character is the blandest Blandy from Bland Zone.
Oh, yeah.
It's just some random, slightly dumpy, brown-haired kid. There is nothing special about you at all.
Yeah, you're just kind of some 14-year-old kid going on this quest. Now, I do want to say the unfortunate thing about this game. If you are in the US, like we are, this is one of the most expensive Genesis games out there. So, and it's not that way in the UK. Now, unfortunately, between the two regions, you can't just put a Mega Drive cartridge and a Genesis, a PAL version Mega Drive cartridge. But yeah,
how much?
I thought I read something that this game actually doesn't work with the Game Genie tricks or something. Like, there's this game really is locked out. You can't use it on both.
More to do with like the TV, working with the TV, than it necessarily does with the console itself, because they're running on two different hertz measurements for the TV.
Yes, it's 50 hertz in the PAL and 60 hertz in the US.
It's disappointing because this is a game that is a nearly $200 cartridge in the US. That's
also, I would say personally, I think the US translation is, in a rare case, I would say is better, even though it may not be strictly as accurate. But it's a friendlier translation in terms of it. It's more fun to read. I think. I think the PAL translation is a bit dry, and this game really doesn't need to be dry.
I'm looking at it on eBay right now, and this must be like a reproduction because it's only like $50. It must be repro.
Yeah, there's plenty of repros, but the legit ones sell for about $150 to $200 for just the cartridge, and then upwards of $600 for it complete. So, not something we.
Yeah, good thing it emulates well.
You're better. Yeah, you're better off spending that money on a flash cartridge for your Genesis, and you can play all kinds of stuff. But no, you should definitely buy the. The thing about Genesis games is that they're much easier to find in the United States, complete in box, because most of them had the clamshell, which makes me feel like whenever I find like a loose Genesis game with it, I don't want it. Like I want the whole thing.
A loose disc, right? You don't want a loose PS2 game or something just because it's so easy to get a complete one.
Well, I mean, there were a few Genesis games that were released in the like crappy paper boxes, weren't there? I have a copy of Weapons Lord, I think, which is
Oh yes, there were quite a few, but my point is that there were a lot in the clamshell, and I love having the clamshell. That's a big nostalgic part of Genesis collecting for me. So just having a reproduction of Crusader of Centy may not scratch that itch. But then again, I don't have any nostalgia for Crusader of Centy because nobody played it when it was new.
But it does have kick-ass music.
Is it out on any kind of virtual console type thing?
I don't.
Like, is there any?
Not that I've ever seen.
I think it's kind of tricky because I think maybe the rights might be lost up somewhere, because I don't know if Sega owned them, or because they don't own. I don't think they own the developer that made the game. I thought they bought them, but I'm not sure. So I actually don't know where the rights for Crusader Centy actually are hiding.
It can't be that expensive though. Like even Sega could afford it. Let me put it that way. Like, it's just one of those things. It takes some effort, and that's why you'll never see it.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Because it takes some effort to do, and it's hard to justify it to the bean counters. But this is exactly the kind of game that deserves to be put out there on like, made available on like a lot of Genesis games are available on Steam now. And they finally put out Monster World 4 and stuff like that. And
this is honestly,
deserve to be played.
At the very least, I would say top 20 Mega Drive games. I think it would be in there pretty readily. I don't think you could topple it.
Should we move on to ranking it? It sounds like that's the natural thing to do at this point. Let's hear it. I want to hear everybody's suggestions because I don't have one.
It is a...
Oh, boy.
I'm trying not to place this one too high because it's one that I played very recently for the first time. Like, I actually hadn't played it before. So in my head, it's probably a little bit too new and fresh in my mind to give it a exactly accurate rank because, I'm like, wow, this game's really great. I can't believe I hadn't played this particular game, and it's a really solid game in this genre. And the Mega Drive didn't have a lot of these. There aren't very many Zelda likes or whatever you want to call them on the Mega Drive.
There's always Landstalker.
Yeah. This game is so much better than Landstalker. It's ridiculous. And it does it without the weird Ewok people, so that's a good effort.
Or the Mickey Mouse shoes.
Wow.
Where would our guest put it? Yeah.
I call it 100. Yeah.
Exactly 100, huh?
Yeah, exactly 100. Just above Tex Murphy, which I'd never heard of, and just below.
Oh my goodness!
I was going to rank it. I was actually pretty close to you. I'm going to rank it a little bit higher though, at 88, which puts it below Power Stone and
above Yakuza.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Above Flashback. Above
Shinmu.
I'm definitely feeling closer to Yakuza than
The important thing is that it can't beat out Power Stone or Ikaruga. So I think that's where I draw the line. I don't have as much attachment to Yakuza or Shenmue. Not that they're not great games, but
it's below Blue Stinger, which is all I care about.
Below what?
Blue Stinger.
What?
Blue Stinger.
What?
What an odd past game to get super attached to. But I don't know.
Dog's Bower, big fat bearded party animal with a boat. I mean, how do you beat that? He fights dinosaurs. He has T-shirts that give him magic powers. He likes baths. I mean, I could go on and on.
Well, I mean, because Crusader the Centy has a penguin named Chili and a cheetah named Flash, and you have these characters, and they're pretty great, and they'll talk to you. And Flash will accept a bribe, which is one of my favorite moments in the game. Is you got to challenge him to a race to win him, and he's just like, I hate this rabbit. He's ripping me off. If you pay me a bribe, I'll sign up with you, and I'll run slow, and then you can win the race. And it's just this amusing little moment, which I think is what Centy does surprisingly well. Is there's a lot of just little moments that happen that I give it way more character than I was expecting from this game. Even compared to something like Link to the Past it's a really great game. It's got great puzzles and all that. But there aren't many moments in it in terms of characterization. It's just very flat in that regard. And this one surprised me about how many little pieces there are. What characters you got? Like, what?
That's kind of the point of the Zelda games, right? It's like they want you... that's the whole reason they call him Link, is they want you to really... He's just kind of a blank slate guy. I mean, can you really relate yourself to a guy who just breaks pottery? And
yes, I can, because that's what I do all the time. In Chickens, I hate him.
That's what I'm saying. He doesn't have any characterization beyond the fact that he breaks pottery and is and he's got some vague motivation, of course, to save the world.
I can't tell if he's trying to avenge his uncle or get away from his uncle.
Uncle's dead. Very confusing. Don't worry about that. Look, the thing about the Zelda games, beginning with Link to the Past, they're a different kind of storytelling. They're like the Dragon Quest mold of storytelling. Well, the story is everything but definitely. The main character is the story. You are experiencing other people's stories. And I think Zelda does get it does deal with that stuff pretty well in a way. But I see what you're saying. I have not played enough Crusader of Centy to really have an opinion, and yet my opinion still exists. I mean, I would put it right below Bushido Blade and right above Splatterhouse, and I can't explain that. I just feel like it's right.
So between 95 and 95.
Oh my god, I cannot believe how bad the numbering got messed up.
Well, I mean, they're both 95. That's fair. I mean, at that point, I would still just I would definitely firm lock in at above God Hand there. I wouldn't go below that point.
Yeah, I mean, like the things like God Hand. I mean, not so much necessarily Yakuza, but God Hand and Shenmue and Papo and Jagged Alliance and Bushido Blade. These are like not copycat games, really. Not saying copycat in like the pejorative sense, but just like, I mean, we all know what this is trying to do. It's very good at it, but you know what it is. It's not like somebody was like, let's create a totally original game for the Sega Genesis. And no, I mean, they're like, we're going to do this thing, but we're going to do it on this platform. And it's really good at that.
I think you'd be surprised how original Centy actually is. It's very curious in the way it handles itself. It's not quite a Me Too game in a way. I was expecting it to be.
Argue it up then. Yeah, argue it up. Give me an example of the way it's not like that.
Well, I mean, the way that the firstly, there's a jump button, which it does change the gameplay, and they use it very early on in a way that's kind of interesting. Because you have after the beach town, which is called Anomiya Beach, which you get sent there by a chicken, by the way. The chicken says, I've always wanted to visit Anomiya Beach. I hear there's an animal village there. And you learn that from a chicken, which is pretty cool. And then when you get there, you have to go save a penguin. To get to that penguin, you have to learn how to lift heavy objects from an elephant, and he'll tell you how to do that. And then when you go to this area, there's a very strong breeze, and it constantly kicks up going to the left and going to the right of the screen. And what you do is, at first, you're just wandering around puzzling this area. And if you've played a Link to the Past or one of these other games, you'll be just like playing it normally. But then you realize that there's a gap, and you can never possibly cross it. And what you have to realize is that in order to clear this gap, you have to wait for the wind to kick up and push left or right, and then time your jump so that you get into a running sprint and leap as the wind kicks up to blow you across the screen to land on the other side of the platform. And when it did that, I was just like, wow, they thought so much about how they were going to make their game with what they added. I was really, really impressed that they made what looked like an ornamental effect, like be a whole other thing.
Yeah, I mean, so where would you put it?
Hey, I'm not gonna try and I like this game more than Monster World 4. That's what I felt, but I'm not going to. If everyone wants to put it a little lower, I am happy to put it below the Power Stone. I think it's a fair place for it.
So rated 88, is that what we're sort of?
Well, that was what you said, right? You were interested in 88.
Roughly there, I would say, between 100 and that seems like we're all in agreement that it's somewhere between like 80 and 100.
Yeah, I'm not like it's not the best game ever. It's surprisingly well worth playing though, which might be why it's expensive. It's not
worth considering the platform it's on too, right? So if the Sega Genesis did not have enough games like this, and that does make it special in a way.
Also, I got to make this clear: the music in this game is amazing. The instrumentalization is fantastic. It has an organ that actually sounds like an organ, which is just arcane magic on the Genesis
yeah.
Like it's crazy.
It doesn't sound like a like some kind of weird Yamaha fart.
I thought this.
Like you'll listen to it, it's got fantastic, and there's like you go to the lava caves, and there's this smooth jazz, and I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah,
how'd they do that?
Like, sweet music, right? But it has that same problem Rocket Knight has, where you have this like screeching, like ringing sound when you charge up your sword.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that. That's probably my only real problem that I think is a serious problem with this game is you charge your sword and it shrieks at you, and I'm so sad that it does that because you'll eventually basically block out that sound because it's just that's a beepy noise. Didn't enjoy that. That's for sure. Did
Cody give us his recommendation? Because I think that if he agrees with you two, that settles it.
I put it at straight 100. So I don't know. I have
you're closer to
Shenmue. So, but
you're pretty much agreeing with me then.
Yeah.
How bad is that?
Yeah, that's why I agreed. That's why I agreed at 88. I didn't want to have to try and It was a fight between the two at the moment. I was deadlocking it.
So how should we put it right below Shenmue then, and right above Mega Man Legends?
That sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Okay, that's 3. And we're done. Simple majority.
Damn it. Shenmue doesn't have... Oh, wait, no, it has 1 cat.
It does have a very important cat. I mean, not important.
Yeah, it's got
it
one animal friend. I was going to say it doesn't have animal friends, and I screwed it up. It has 1 animal friend. I can't believe it.
And there's a girl who found the cat. It looks hungry. Can you find food for it? You know, that kind of thing.
I can't believe Centy lost to that.
It's a legend. Oh, wow, what a fascinating conversation that was about those 2 games. But guess what? The conversation kept going, and it was even better for the 3rd game. We talked about McDonaldland, and that's a Patreon donors-only game. You can check it out by giving a $2 minimum monthly donation at patreon.com/HG101. Listen to us talk about McDonaldland. It's not what you think. And is it safe to say we were loving it? No?
It's pretty good.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
I mean, that's not really McDonald's logo or slogan, but it's pretty good. It's kind of more accurate.
It's better than McDonald's food. Am I right, people? High five. Oh, no, sponsorship. Sorry.
We're never getting that sponsorship now, but maybe KFC will hand us over one.
I don't know. I'm friends with the Hamburglar. Maybe he can work some magic here. That's all for this episode of Hardcore Gaming 101's Top Games Podcast. Special thanks goes out to at SB057 and at OVFaceNugs on Twitter.
They really gave you a couple of tough ones this week, didn't they?
We've had Face Nugs before, and I keep laughing, and I don't know why. Face Nugs. Thank you guys for nominating those games, and thanks to those of you who haven't got to yet. We will be getting to you soon, and thanks to my lovely co-hosting compatriots. Thanks to Cody and Kelsey for joining us again.
Thank you.
They're really fantastic.
Check out their stuff.
Thanks,
it's
guys.
great. Their podcast is what's the podcast again?
Game Blitz podcast. It's two words, including game that wasn't taken.
I don't know.
We should have Nugs.
Once that guy in Toronto snatched up Game Fart, I think it was all over. Like, I tried so hard and he beat me to it. Thanks as well to our editor and booking agent Jeff Rude, and our theme song composer Muteki, and our technical assistant video editor. Sorry, I'm still thinking of more things you could add to games, like Games Enema or I don't know.
Games Enema is a new service we provide. Actually,
we've liquefied every copy of Shaq Fu on the market, and
well, we can't tell you what we do with it, but I think you know.
It fits in a tube now, and the tube fits in. Our theme song, thanks to our theme song composer Muteki, our technical assistant, video editor, and scriptwriter Bobinator, and of course, thanks to the support and feedback of listeners like you. You can support this podcast even more by giving a small monthly donation at patreon.com/HG101. I know I did. You can help us out by subscribing to the HG101 YouTube channel. You can help us out by following at GC9X and at HG_101 on Twitter. And you can hang out with us on our super badass, so cool, you'll love it, Discord channel, bit.ly/HG Discord. But most importantly, help us claw our way into the podcasting firmament by getting on iTunes, subscribing to HG101, and giving us a 5-star review. Do it, or we'll send a pink elephant to haunt your dreams, and he's got some really controversial social views. Until next week, keep keeping it real.